Yeah, yeah,
Alhamdulillah, maqamat has been a very beautiful journey, or in addition to the journey I've had with the Quran. Because before it was like, I don't know. I think maybe we've talked about it before. If you do you have time? Like a little bit of
yeah,
time?
yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, before I feel like maybe I told you or I didn't, but when I was younger, uh I was always like the person like in my family or extended family or whatever it was, like they like throw me up at the front to like lead salah. And it
Yeah,
wasn't even because I had a beautiful voice. It was just like I guess I learned tajweed when I was really young, like when I was like six,
yeah,
7 years old, and I guess it stuck around in my head. I don't know what it was. I genuinely have no clue what it was because it wasn't like I had a beautiful voice or something like that. It just like threw me up.
yeah,
So I'd always do that, and then like at home, anytime we lead pray salah together in Jama'at, like it would always be me. My dad would like always make me do it. Um, and like as a kid, I knew you can recite the Quran beautifully. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know qira'at. I didn't know maqamat. I didn't know any of this stuff existed until like very recently. So I'd always like think as a kid, I'd be like, oh, inshallah, like once I get older, like as a kid, you always say that. It's like a general statement. Once I get older, I'm
yeah,
gonna do it.
yeah,
Um, but I never knew like how I would go about it. I eventually before college, I started refreshing my tajweed with another ustad that I was learning with. And I asked him, I was like, can you teach me how to like recite and like melody? Like I can't really teach that. You got to find somebody in the masjid and sit down with them and learn. I was like, well, that's cooked because every time I went to a masjid, I asked somebody like, oh, sorry, we don't teach that. I'm like, all right, well, like you ask one ustad, he says go learn the masjid. You ask the ustad in the masjid, he says we don't teach in the masjid. I'm like, I don't know where to go.
yeah.
Um, so about 2 years ago, how long have we been doing this? 2.5 years ago, a little over 2.5 years ago, I just like started making dua. I was like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ya Allah, allow me to memorize your Quran, allow me to recite it beautifully, allow me to understand what I'm reciting. Um, and subhanAllah, like one after the other, like it's subhanAllah, like I think back to it, like it's just so beautiful, like how Allah plans. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
like after that Ramadan where I made dua, the first Jummah I went to, there was a brother who was traveling from India, and he's the one who offered like an Arabic course, like understanding
What?
the Quran, like through Arabic. So he taught like basic grammar and then just went through the whole Quran word for word, like start to finish. He went through it word for word. So I signed up for that class. It was free, like
Oh, there in
completely.
Atlanta?
He was doing it online on Zoom.
Oh, in
So
Zoom.
I
Okay.
started doing that with him right after Ramadan. And I was like, okay, I started like learning Arabic word for word, grammar. I was like, well, if I'm learning this and I'm understanding the Quran when I hear it, when I'm understanding the Quran and I read it a little bit better, why don't I just start memorizing? Right? The only thing stopping me is me. Um, so I was like, I'm an adult. I can't like go and sit in a madrasa all day, like the little
Yeah,
hafadh do. So I'll just start memorizing on my own. I'll do whatever I can. So I started memorizing, and then I give my dad the mushaf, and I started reading to him. Um, and I guess I saw like a video that Ramadan of yours on reciting two, and I was like looking up like something about melody. Like I didn't write maqamat. I literally
yeah.
didn't know what maqamat was. I just wrote something about how to recite beautifully or how to recite in melody. And one of your videos came up. It was the Mujawwad versus Murattal video, the one you did like 12 years ago,
Oh, okay,
a
yeah.
long time ago.
Long time
And
ago.
I remember you recited something from Surah Al-Rahman. I was like, Subhanallah, like I got to learn how to do this. And I clicked the link in your description because I was like 12-year-old video, like this guy probably isn't even teaching anywhere, right? Like there's no way. So I clicked the link and it opened up like a functioning website. I'm like, oh, you know what? Like maybe I do it. And you're always a little skeptical when you were signing up for something
Of
online,
course, yeah.
and you don't know like what you're signing up for. So I talked to my mom a long time for a while about it. I was like, should I sign up? It's like it's a lot of money. Like you pay like a certain amount of money. You don't know like if it's a real thing or if it's a scam. Like you have to like go through
Yeah,
these
yeah.
sort of like motions. But eventually my mom was like, no, say Bismillah. It's a good thing. The guy has a lot of videos on his YouTube. Like I don't think like it's anything like that. Just sign up, inshallah, right? So Bismillah and sign up. I was like, okay, khair, inshallah. So I put my information in. I signed up, and that summer, June 2022, is when I started doing maqamat with you. And while I was doing maqamat, I was
Overnight
doing
party. You started overnight party class, yeah.
overnight qari class. Yeah, so that's when I
Yeah.
signed up with you in June. I did that for the 8 week program, and as soon as I did it, I was like, I have to do whatever's next, right? Like I knew, like I fell in love with this subhanAllah, because like where it took my recitation from like nothing, like just like monotone, straight, no pitch, no melody, nothing. And I had no knowledge of it before. So like I knew if you can like with your guidance and of course from the tawfiq and hidayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I was able to elevate my recitation with you in 8 weeks, I was like, well, if I actually give my like best studying with this ustad for a year at minimum, like imagine the leaps and bounds that you could make. So I started doing that with you, and I remember at the end of the course you talked about like, oh, there's accelerated maqamat course, and I do a little bit more like freestyle open sort of learning. Um, Signed up for that, and then you're the person who recommended me the ustad that brother
Oh
Saud was
yeah,
working
yeah.
with, and that's when I took my hips to the next level, right? So subhanallah, like block by block, like everything just started connecting, like Allah's the answer of all du'as, right? Like
Of
uh
course, yeah.
you call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he'll answer. So no,
In
I
ways that you can
I,
never
I
imagine
elevated
too,
that.
right? Like it's like, you know,
What was that?
he'll answer in ways that you can never imagine. Like,
Never imagine, never
yeah, or on a
imagine.
timeline that you can't imagine because like sometimes it just happens so fast or it happens,
Yeah,
maybe not
yeah.
so fast, but in strange ways, you know?
And you can never really guess like where it will come from, right? Like as a kid, like all my life, I was like, oh, I want like back then it was the sheikh that I would always listen to is Saad Al-Ghamdi. He was the
Okay, yeah.
big one. Like I think that's the CD we had. I don't think we had Sheikh today, so I remember we had his and I'd always hear his. I'm like, wow, like subhanallah, like I wonder if I could recite like that one day. And it's just like a
Yeah,
pipe dream that I had as a kid. So like, I'd make dua and my mom would be like, make dua and one day inshallah you'll recite like him or even better and all of these things. So, like you make dua and you just trust in the process and building block by building block eventually. Like I was able to start doing hifz more intently. I was able to learn Arabic a little bit better. And of course, like maqamat I've been doing for I said June 2022, a little over 2 years,
like
like
two
2 years
years,
and
yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
Um, so subhanAllah, I mean, as far as this course goes, like it was genuinely like very life changing, subhanAllah. Like my connection with the
Alhamdulillah.
Quran, like how much I recite, even like my motivation to do hifz, my ability to recite and then continue to go back and revise and revise and revise. Like revision, any hafiz that I've ever talked to has always told me the revision's the hardest part. But like when you're doing maqamat, there's something about like the ability to beautify the recitation and then build a different connection with it, right? You can always build a connection with the Quran. Like that's the beauty of the Quran. It's kalamullah, right? So
Of
like
course, yeah.
it's there, but when you are able to recite it with maqamat, they're able to recite it in a way that's so beautiful and connect your heart with it. You just want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have a goal of, oh, I'm going to revise by reciting this page 10 times, you hit 10 and you're like, man, I want to do it 15 times now, right? I want to do 20.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like
It's
subhanallah,
enjoying the process, right?
yeah,
It's like I don't know, you're driving the car, but it's the environment, right? It's like the car is taking you from point A to point B, which is where you need to go. But then there's
yeah.
the experience of being in the car and enjoying the drive or whatever, however you want to put it. So it helps you to engage more, of course.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So, Allah bless this course, Sheikh. Allah bless you, Allah reward you, Allah accept you
Ameen,
from you
ameen,
all of your efforts, and inshallah keep your intentions always pure
ameen,
and
ameen.
steadfast. Allah be pleased with you. SubhanAllah, you're doing great work. Because I'm one student and mashallah, you've had the honor to teach many, many students as well.
Alhamdulillah,
Um, so,
alhamdulillah.
Allah accept from them, Allah bless them, and Allah allow you to see their rewards on your scale as well
Ameen,
on the day of
ameen,
judgment.
ameen,
Inshallah. I mean, it's
ameen.
very beautiful work. It's very impactful. And I know like as an ustad, you might have an idea of it, but like as a student to be able to come across the other side of the tunnel and look back on subhanAllah, everything that's sort of happened to me, like it makes you emotional, like I feel emotional
Yeah.
right now. I mean, mashallah, Sheikh. I mean, subhanAllah, you're doing great stuff. And like to be able to
Thank
do
you,
that
thank
as
you.
like your career, like as something
Yeah.
that you do, I mean, it's admirable, subhanAllah, to say the least.
Alhamdulillah, it's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, I'm glad to hear that. Sometimes I do myself, like, I don't get that experience, right?
Yeah,
I don't experience the before and after myself. Like,
of course, right?
I'll see it with students when I help them, right? Uh, or like sometimes a student is doing well and I'll ask them and they're like, I'm like, did you get that from this class? And they're like, yeah, I didn't have a tune before. So I experience it in those moments, but it's not the same as the person who kind of makes dua for something and then gets it, right? Or didn't
Yeah.
have a tune before. Like the experience is different. So I appreciate you sharing that. If anyone's thinking about taking this stuff, they want to learn maqamat, uh, I don't know, anything you want to say about kind of the coaching program specifically, or just generally like our approach to teaching maqamat, like uh, versus say going on YouTube and trying to listen to different clips because that comes up a lot. People might be foraging, kind of doing the YouTube rabbit hole thing, clicking from one recommendation to the next. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is understanding that there's a difference between having talent and then having the guidance of somebody who uh, can sort of nudge you in the right direction. And my hifth ustad told me this a while ago, right? Like when I was just doing it on my own, um, he said, when you're doing it on your own, it's good, right? Like you're making progress and you're moving in the right direction. But an ustad is kind of like a driver or driving instructor for you, right? So he's able to keep you between the bumpers or between the lanes, however you want to picture it. But when you don't have that person behind the wheel, the car's sort of just going all over the place.
Mm,
There's very, very few people who, subhanAllah, Allah has blessed with the ear to be able to hear maqamat and mimic it, and then understand like the nuances between maqamat and understand the nuances between um, like the different modes of recitation. That's a very small minority. A large majority of people need an instructor to sort of break things down. And even the people who I are in my circles that understand maqamat, they don't really teach like that, right? So like your program specifically is very unique in the way that you are able to break it down um, into a way that any person can consume, right? You don't have to come from like a music background. You don't have to come from a hifz background or a tajweed background or, like being some Quran competition and then come, right? Like there are people that sit down with you and then they hum patterns and then you try to mimic the patterns they're giving you and then you practice those patterns for months on end and then eventually you get into your recitation. But unless you have an ustad to sort of sit with, show you how to do that, and you can hum the patterns, but if you don't understand what you're humming, then it's very difficult to sort of navigate outside of that. So you get
yeah, yeah.
stuck, right? So I think the most distinct, unique part of this course is the fact that everything is broken down, right? Start to
Mm,
finish, like your bottom part of the maqamat. So if you're starting low, and then what it looks like when it's high, how to mix maqamat, how to transition between maqamat, how to actually understand once you get a little bit deeper into it, which maqamat are you going to use just naturally when reciting certain parts in the Quran,
mm,
right? That might be a story, that might be a warning, something that might be something as simple as the rewards of Jannah or the
mm.
punishment of the hereafter. So understanding all of these nuances and um, actually implementing it, I think an ustad like yourself who breaks all of these things down is extremely important because you sort of just freestyle on your own. Um, and I would say probably 90% of people who are freestyling on their own aren't doing uh, the most that they could be doing with what they have because they don't have somebody like an instructor that would be able to show them the way. You need that
Yeah,
guidance.
or to push them further. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And all bless you, Haroon. Yeah, it's been enjoyable working with you, and
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
I appreciate the kind words.
It's been great.